Alex Jones.
God bless my family. I love my wife and children more than life itself. Everything I do is for the future of all my children. They may not understand why I have sacrificed so much, why I'm so dedicated to this work, but someday they will. I want them to know they are the most important people in my life and how very, very much I love them. William Cooper. Bill Cooper shot dead last night about 1:30 in the morning Eastern Time. Today, I guess in the mountain or Pacific zones, it was yesterday, and it's painful to watch all of this unfold. But it's happened. And it all started with the IRS, the private run-for-profit collection agency with the Federal Reserve coming after him. I went back and dug into the archives of the Arizona Republic and found the sheriff, when the feds were prodding him to SWAT team Cooper, saying, oh, no, I don't want another Ruby Ridge. We're not going to do that. The question is, why, after September 11th, did they go after William Cooper? And we're hearing a lot of rumors out there of what has developed. Most people are just reading off the script from the Apache County Sheriff's Department, which I have here in front of me and which we've posted on Infowars.com. I actually called the Sheriff's Department several times and tried to get the story of exactly what happened, and it is mirrored by their actual press release. They admit they were there luring him out of his home, luring him down the hill. He lives up on top of a mesa, those flat-top hills so famous out in the West. Then he tried to get back to his house, drove around some of them. They began firing at him, so he jumped out and fired back, shooting a SWAT team member in the head, and then they claim they returned fire. I don't believe that for a minute. They love to shoot first. In fact, let's go back to what happened in Lubbock, Texas, just a few months ago, where they shot two of their own officers, killing one, shot the unarmed man, and then tried to claim that he shot the officers until someone in the department blew the whistle. We played the audio off the video here on the show. The video links are on Infowars.com. They shot with their own cameras as they start screaming and crying, APC, APC, get me an armored personnel carrier. Then you have the SWAT teams in 4 East German APCs firing into 14 houses in Santa Clarita, north of Los Angeles, burning down houses, running around foaming at the mouth with their bloodlust. You got a SWAT team raid a school earlier this year in Fort Worth, Texas, on a so-called grill, blew one of their own officers' heads off. I don't believe it for a minute that Cooper fired first. They admit they created a disturbance down the hill from his house. He drove down in his truck, and then they claim he fired at them. Oh, yeah, right. Looks to me like the guy was laying on the ground. He only had one leg, and they probably walked up to finish him off, and he pulled out his pistol and shot one of them. That's more likely than what they're saying, because it's hard to shoot somebody twice in the head with a handgun unless you're at close range. But we'll probably never know the truth. The officer is holding on to his life. I heard some unconfirmed reports that he's dead. We called the hospital, and they won't say. No doubt by tomorrow or later this evening we'll have all the details for you. We're going to go through all of it. Then we've got to cover the other news, what's developing. They're back in the media saying torture is needed of the American people. They need to start torturing us and not a minute to waste. And the San Francisco Chronicle, Al-Qaeda terrorist, worked with the FBI. Yes, shades of 1993, where the feds cooked the bomb and trained the driver in the first World Trade Center bombing. By the grace of God, someone parked around the columns, so they were unable to get their FBI payload up against it to bring one tower down and impose their draconian control, which they've now gotten through. But let's see them implement it. You see, Cooper wasn't like a bunny rabbit you could just go kill predators. He struck back, didn't he?
From his Central Texas Command Center, deep behind enemy lines, the information war continues. It's Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of vitally important news to cover this evening. Of course, our top story is William Cooper, shot dead by SWAT team police. The new special variety we have. Russia had them for 80 years. Nazi Germany had them, of course. China has them. Mexico had them 50 years ago. The Inquisitors had them 500, 600, 700 years ago. Executioners always wore black ski masks. And they dropped by to kill the naval veteran, highly decorated, no criminal record until the last few years when he wouldn't show up for court hearings with the IRS trying to take his house. Best-selling author. I interviewed Mr. Cooper years ago many times, but he seemed to get more and more frustrated and, frankly, angry as time went on. And it was the stress. Some people cannot handle the stress of knowing just how evil the globalists are. I've been doing this for 8 years, and, frankly, I've gotten better at handling it. Some people, it wears them down. But a good man who did a lot of good work is dead, according to globalist newspapers. We have the press release here from the police department that the Arizona Republic hasn't gotten around to yet. I also dug into the archives and have several stories from this year and stories going back to 1995 about Cooper from the Arizona Republic. And we'll go through what he said would happen back in 95 and tell me if it hasn't happened. All we're doing here is warning people, exposing who's behind the terrorism, who stands to gain, defending the Republic, the Constitution, our family's rights to live in a free nation. And for that, we're bad, I guess. But the good news is, 5 years ago, when people like Cooper were trying to get the word out, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, when others were fighting hard, you didn't have the massive numbers we see today. The good news is people are waking up. Mel Gibson's making films like Braveheart and The Patriot, and Richard Linklater's making films like Waking Life, and the discussion is everywhere, and they're even starting a new ABC News show to try to steal our thunder, where they interview different so-called conspiracy theorists every night on television. Of course, it'll be pap and manipulation, but they're losing their ratings, they're falling apart, they're imploding while we're growing. The message of freedom is being heard loud and clear, and that's why you saw this horrible terrorist attack of September 11th, a way to destabilize the world and plunge us into a global system of slavery. Don't forget that Vladimir Putin, 2 years ago, when he had only been appointed president, blowing up 3 Russian apartment buildings, attempting to blame it on the Chechens for a pretext for a war and a police state clampdown in the major cities of Russia. And it worked for him, despite the fact that local Moscow police, the left hand not knowing what the right hand was doing, actually caught members of the FSB, the KGB by a new name, still the same, planting explosives on the support columns of a 4th apartment building. Moscow. This is what governments do. And now they're talking about torturing Americans. And we're probably going to go to your calls a little bit earlier tonight. I had Zane Wally from the Paragon Foundation coming on to talk about land rights and the border being wide open and United Nations observers being down there, now photographs being taken of them. This is a pretty mainstream organization. In fact, he's co-hosting America's Most Wanted this week to talk about how the southern border is open. We're only going to have Zane Wally on, though, for about 10 minutes, coming up at about 20, because I want to have time to get to your calls tonight. If you want to get lined up to talk about the murder of Bill Cooper by goon squads, you're welcome to join us by dialing toll-free 1-800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. Incidentally, we have posted the police version of the story on Infowars.com. The Arizona Republic article links to WilliamCooper.com, HourOfTheTime.com, and many other pertinent stories. So you can look at what we know right now, which is basically just all government garbage, and make up your mind of what's developing. Though I do have some sources that are giving me some pretty good info that I've then checked out with the Sheriff's Department, and I guess they haven't taught their people how to lie completely yet because it started conflicting with their statement. But they do admit they lured him out of the house by creating a disturbance. They came out, pulled guns on his car, drove away. He was getting up to his house, SWAT team out of the car, and then they claim he shot one of their SWAT team men in black uniform and ski mask, and that they then shot him. Of course, the problem with that is, and we know how the SWAT teams like to do things, and we've seen their track record, and interesting that he could get off 2 shots and shoot one in the head before they could shoot him. I'm sad for everybody involved. This is the system, though. You think the globalists care about you police as they sick you on naval veterans living up on top mountains, doing radio shows, and printing newspapers? Meanwhile, the communist Chinese are in Panama threatening to nuke us again. This came out today in the Sunday Times of London and the BBC. They're putting out celebration TV shows showing the buildings collapse. The Russians are rolling out new Tupolev missiles threatening to hit us, building giant underground bases. The borders are wide open. Sovereignty sold out. Some of our last steel mills are shutting down in Pittsburgh, PA. Chinese slave goods are on all the shelves. But that's not the threat, is it? It's 58-year-old naval veterans who are eccentric, sitting up on top of a mountain, doing a radio show. And you see what's going to happen out of this. There are 130 million gun owners in this country. That means if 1% refuse to hand them over and resist, that is millions of combatants. 1,300,000. And what do you have? 650,000 police, about half of them are support. I don't want that to happen. I'm not in some macho mindset of, you just come on, boy, we're waiting on you. But you're on the nightly news, your bosses are, talking about how you want to torture Americans. You abolished the Fourth Amendment last week. It's funny, right as NBC's airing Uprising about Jews defending themselves from the men in black uniforms. They didn't wear black ski masks, though. Well, I guess that was a little much for them, even them. That Bill Cooper's laying in a pool of blood outside his house after you lured him outside like predators would do to a prey animal. Pounced on him. But you see, he wasn't a complete prey animal, was he? He wasn't like a gazelle out there on the African plain. You're a lion that comes stalking up to jump on its back. Wasn't like being an owl swooping down on a rat. It was a human being who'd served his country and done the best he could and predicted a lot of things and fought a lot of corruption. And so you gunned him down. You gunned him down, and you admit in your own press release that you lured him outside. That you created a disturbance. They admit that. I'm going to read their press release. And isn't it funny they claim they were there to deliver a warrant for not showing up to a federal court case and for some type of threats or assault there on the property. I know Cooper on his website, they were kept sending feds and others onto his property to try to start some type of fight with him so they could kill him. And they got some more trumped-up charges and then lured him back outside again and killed him. Sneaking around in the dark in their black helmets and their black uniforms with their Cobra and skull patches with their little MP5 9mm submachine guns. But you know, you don't have to be Bill Cooper for him to come after you. You can just be some guy in Newcastle, PA, walking through a parking lot, walk by a police car, and suddenly a huge German Shepherd's going, right there, you know, those big old things. You go, shut up. You raise your hands. The police admit that's all the man did. They're charging with a felony, inciting the officer. Newcastle, PA, October 20th was in the news. They're going after him, throwing the book. You talk back to our dog, boy. What about the ranchers are having to arrest or kill? You didn't give us your ranch, boy. Didn't give us your farm. We're going to have to take it, I'm sorry. That's for the cutter, don't worry. We're just doing our job. That's all we're doing, is doing our job. Hey, look at there. CIA shipping in more cocaine. Well, we all know they do it, but we still got to arrest your kids when they got a marijuana cigarette and throw them into a jail cell so they can get raped by some animal because we're just doing our job. Yeah, I know the prison population is 6.5 million, police have told me, but that's good. We're getting more criminals in there. Now, who are the criminals? Gun owners. So here's the headlines. Militia leader killed, deputy wounded during attempted arrest. This is all up on Infowars.com. We got it all. All the stories I've seen out there on it. A national leader of the militia movement has been killed, and an Apache County Sheriff's deputy wounded in a shootout, authorities said. William Milton Cooper, 58, of Eager, had hosted a talk show broadcast on the worldwide Christian radio out of Nashville, which received a phone from his home in St. John's. He had millions of listeners worldwide, including Timothy McVeigh. Notice how they mix that in. No, he helped expose that Timothy McVeigh was a mind-controlled slave and that the government blew that building up. Now we have David Shippers, the former impeachment lawyer, going public, and Colonel Roberts. I mean, so you got a problem, government. More and more credible people are going to stand up. So you can throw names around, it ain't going to work. The deputy's name is being withheld by authorities, was shot twice in the head while trying to arrest Cooper. A State Department of Public Safety spokesman said today Cooper was killed by another officer. All the details, your calls, and a quick 10-minute interview about the border situation with Zane Wally coming up, so stay with us. All right, on November 6th, and that's Central or Eastern time, it was November 5th, Pacific time, or I guess that's a mountain over there, William Cooper was shot dead by ninja-suited men in black engaging in their terror in the dark of night after luring him with a, quote, disturbance at the bottom of the hill at his property. After luring him, they tried to trap him, pull him out of his car, pointed guns at him. They admit all this. He peacefully tried to drive away from them to get back to his home. While exiting his truck to get back into his house, his sanctuary, they gunned him down. Somewhere during these different proceedings, one of the deputies got shot twice in the head and is in critical condition, has had several surgeries today. We do not know if he is alive or dead at this time. Reports are coming out that he is dead, but that is unconfirmed. We called and first heard he was dead, and they said he wasn't. I've been talking to the sheriff's department. Some nice lady answers the phone. We have their phone numbers posted from their press release on Infowars.com. The reason I say some nice lady is she obviously wasn't part of this, and normally when you call the sheriff's department when they've done some evil deed, they're very rude. They haven't been rude. I think they're very scared right now, and rightfully so. They were sicked upon Mr. Cooper by federal Gestapo forces. Again, all the details are coming up throughout the night as they develop. Got a bunch of other stuff we haven't gotten to yet, but right now let's get a couple calls in. As promised, we're going to have open phones tonight to talk about this. Love to hear from you. 1-800-259-9231. Doug in Delaware. You're on the air, sir.
Good evening, Alex. It's a strange coincidence. Earlier today, I was actually going to call you out of the blue and ask you what were your thoughts about Bill Cooper. And I hear the beginning of your show, and my heart, just sunk in my chest. It's unthinkable. I've read You Hold a Pale Horse. I thought it was a great book, and it's one of the many tools I use to talk to other people. And what I'm thinking is going to be a result of this, as it becomes more and more known by more people, it's just as if we needed more fuel. It's more fuel to the fire of how evil these people really are.
Well, it's a hardening. It lets us know that if we lick their boots or if we try to beg them or go along with them, they're not going to stop. I mean, I was reviewing tapes sent to me by a firefighter at a FEMA meeting. They were teaching firefighters and police that, quote, the Founding Fathers were terrorists. So everything we love, mom and apple pie, is now evil.
Yeah, and as you said previously, I believe last night, that the Constitution, we should not assume that that is any guarantee of rights. And that's supposed to be the supreme law of the land.
Well, it was confirmed that on Fox News, the chairman, John Chiefs of Staff, said that so that that they violate the Constitution all the time and it's no big deal. The point is, what I was saying is the Constitution simply enumerates, like God made his laws on the tablet to Moses. The tablet and the laws in and of themselves weren't the power of the law. It was God behind it. So the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, only points out our God-given rights. It's up to us to defend them. And when you drive by a cemetery full of dead veterans, and that's what Bill Cooper is now, a veteran, a patriot, a soldier fighting for this country, like anybody else that's fought for this nation, from George Washington to somebody charging the beaches of Iwo Jima, this is what we're dealing with. When you drive by those little white crosses, those men didn't die to not have a Fourth Amendment for their children and grandchildren. They didn't become wounded and sweat and bleed and go through all that trauma to live in a third world police state where we're paralyzed.
Well, that's right. He was, as you said, as I read, he was in the Navy. He had quite a high rank, and he was simply revealing the truth as was presented to him. And
well, I already said it. Everything Bill Cooper said about Oklahoma City, and I made a film 3 years ago about it as well. David Shippers is now saying, the guy that brought down the mob in Chicago, a Democrat who the Republicans hired to impeach Clinton, and he's saying the government had prior knowledge, and he was begging him to stop the terror attacks. I mean, they're going to have a problem, though. You see, they're going to have more and more credible people like General Parton and Admiral Moore and Colonel Roberts and Dr. Frederick Whiters, former head of the FBI crime lab, calling the feds crooks. Tyrone Powers, FBI agent. The list is just growing of people going, and the more they squeeze, the more resistance it creates. Right. And I would say to the police out there, think about it. You're not allowed to deal with the real threats of this country. You're supposed to deal with those. This country is controlled by a national security dictatorship. As of recent, yeah. And, the web is just going to become too tangled. It's going to collapse in among itself. I hope that's what happens. Thanks, Alex. Doug, thanks for the call. Scott and Brian, everybody else, you're going to have to hold because we've got Mr. Wally coming on, the head of the Paragon Foundation, or one of their top spokesmen, who's actually on America's Most Wanted, coming out, I'm told, next couple nights, with how the border is wide open and the Islamic terrorists are pouring across. First, a WorldNet Daily story a couple weeks ago. But again, they're not sealing that border, are they? No, they're not. They're leaving it wide open, but telling you should take a national ID card and discussing torture on the nightly news. See how they're twisting your minds? Don't let them do it. Like my friends again, William Cooper, Bill Cooper, shot dead in the early morning hours today in his home in Arizona. We have some of the locals, like Dink, calling in to give us some of the details according to what they've been hearing. All I know is I talked to the Sheriff's Department, and I found it even more than what's in their press release. They admit they lured him out of the house with a fake disturbance down at the bottom of the hill from the mesa he lived on top of. More sneaky activity, so that's coming up. And, of course, Scott and Brian and many others that are holding short chance this evening to comment on the murder, the killing of Mr. Cooper. And we'll go into why they did it and read their press release and much more. Joining us is Jay Zane Wally, one of the spokesmen, one of the frontline fighters for the Paragon Foundation. We've had on many times to deal with Klamath Falls and other developments. He'll only be on with us for about 10 minutes. He's going to be on America's Most Wanted a little bit later this week. WorldNet Daily first reported that he's been down at the southern border where there basically is no border, and he's also reported the loving little UN observers there trying to get the Mexican red wolf reinserted. And what's happening there, but mainly how the Islamics are pouring across by the tens of thousands, and nothing is being done. But they want us to take a national ID card and turn our guns in, and they've abolished the Fourth Amendment as of a week and a half ago. Mr. Wally, it's good to have you on as a frontline reporter on what's happening as the border is actually weakened during this national crisis.
Well, Alex, thank you very much for being on. It's an honor to be on with you, sir. And, what has happened is the price on the border has gone up, okay? To be smuggled into the U.S. by a human smuggler, a coyote, the price has gone usually well beyond that of the average Mexican worker, bracero, coming in, okay? So what we're seeing now on the southern border is a 47% increase in what the Border Patrol classifies as OTMs, other than Mexicans. And I was down doing an ag article in southern Arizona when I ran into the story. I didn't go down there to do it. It was quite an accident. So but I wrote it because I ran into it. What is occurring right now is Arabs, and I can document so far at least 800 have came across, okay? Perhaps there's many, many more than that.
Well, the FBI knows about the 14-man teams coming in from Syria and Algeria who magically knew the date beforehand. Well, again, sir, we really appreciate you joining us tonight. Were you familiar with William Cooper?
Only by reputation. I did not know him personally, sir.
Well, you know, the SWAT team killed him last night.
I know. I picked that up on Sierra.com.
Seriously painful to see that happen.
I know the giant falls, and I'm sure that's not the last. But let me return to this border situation for a minute, Alex. Please understand, your readers.
Loving friends coming across at $20,000 a pop, but the feds are too busy out there pushing sheriff departments to kill Bill Cooper.
Sure, and here's the situation. That appeared in the Deming Headlight newspaper.
Deming Headlight.
Right.
What day?
One time online, everything was hushed up. I talked to the editor there, and he says, hey, it was an Arab. And nobody's...
I am absolutely going to read the press release put out by the Apache County Sheriff's Department after they killed William Cooper. Yes, you heard it right. Gunned down last night at about 1:40 Eastern Standard Time. Actually, today, in the early morning hours. And we're going to read over some of the news articles and what they have posted up on his website. And we have links to all of that, a bunch of information there at Infowars.com or .net, by the way. We also have the press release here faxed to us by the Sheriff's Department there in Apache. Right now, let's go to Dink, who lives nearby. He's saying in Arizona. Dink, reading over these articles today, which I haven't gotten to yet, they mentioned a local man named Dink who was friends with Bill Cooper. Are you that person that was in the Arizona Republic a few years ago?
Wasn't a friend of his. I knew who he was, and I'd listened to him, and everybody knew who he was. And I think a lot of the people are being misinformed in some respects. Mr. Cooper, not to minimize a lot of great things that he did in making people aware of what's going on out in the world in regards to the New World Order and the other issues. In most recent days, Mr. Cooper had some problems, and our local citizens here and threatened them with firearms. And
do you live there in the town?
Do I live in the town?
Yeah, where do you live?
I live about 20 miles from the town, but I shop in the town, and I know his neighbors and the people all around him.
And again, the name of the town right there?
The town where I live is Alpine, and he lived in Eager.
Yeah, Eager, and right. He lived up on a mesa.
He lived up on a little hill up there, and for several years, the local police and even the feds had opted to just let him sit up there, even though they had a warrant for failure to appear on an IRS issue.
Well, yeah, they're here in a May 6, 2001. It says Arizona broadcaster. It says he lives in the only house atop a high mesa with a bird's eye view of the scenic Round Valley. Let me finish up with what they said. It says his Eager police chief, Scott Garms, said his department has had a number of discussions with the U.S. Marshals Service and the FBI about the best way to take Cooper into custody. I've made my opinions known that there's no reason to go in and storm that house and make a martyr out of him. Well, they've done that now.
Well,
Holmes Chief Deputy Marshal for the District of Arizona did not return phone calls regarding Cooper. Cooper noted on his website that he has sent most of his family out of the country in 1999 for security reasons, and that they are now safe from Nazi jackboot thugs. In more recent entries in his website, Cooper says, and I checked this out, he did say it, that he has not been able to attend his mother's funeral because of the threat from a Nazi Gestapo, and the federal agents had attempted to coerce his daughter to help him with his apprehension. I'm prepared and ready for them. I will resist this tyranny, even unto death, Cooper posted on his website. I remember reading that on the air years ago. So go ahead. I'm sorry. I wanted to read that.
Well, what I'm trying to point out is I'm not trying to minimize what he did, because I thought that he did a good job keeping people informed and so forth. But what I'm trying to tell you, and I know this firsthand, that this was a tragedy on both parts. It was a tragedy that Mr. Cooper died. It was a tragedy that this deputy got shot. But you have to understand that it wasn't a real good operation, but they were attempting to lure him out to try to take him without having to shoot him, because they were afraid his home was filled with firearms and things to protect himself.
Hey, what's wrong with that? It's called the Second Amendment. He's up there not bothering anybody, and they admit that. Hey, hold on. They admit they created a disturbance in their own press release down at the bottom of the hill. He came out. They pulled guns. He peacefully drove away, and then they surrounded him.
That's not what happened. He capped around at that deputy first and hit him twice in the head, and the deputy, as of about 5:30 this evening.
Deke, I'll hold you over and let you say your piece before we take more calls. But I have to ask you, do you listen to this show?
I do, Alex, and I agree with a lot of what you say.
All right, stay right there. Stay right there. We'll be back. I just want to see if you work for the Sheriff's Department.
He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, already into the second hour of this broadcast. More news out there in the mainstream media. Here's the headline: Media stoked debate on torture as U.S. option. They're abolishing more and more of the Bill of Rights, publicly bringing in foreign troops, publicly foreign troops flying about our skies. The border's left wide open. They tell us to take a national ID card and announce that we are the enemy. We're about to go to your calls, Scott, Brian, Jake, Rick, and everybody else. Deke lives nearby to the town where William Cooper, Bill Cooper, longtime author, newspaper writer, and, of course, radio broadcaster, lived. At approximately 11:40 Eastern Standard Time this morning, last night there in the Mountain Time Zone, he was shot dead by SWAT teams, or by a SWAT team, and another deputy was shot in the head. Talking to the local right now, we can't confirm by calling the hospital whether the deputy is alive or dead. Do you have any details on that for us, Deke?
As of about 5:30 this evening, he had come out of surgery and was they suspected he'd be all right. That the bullet traversed his scalp and went and didn't actually penetrate the brain and went around, and so he looks like he's going to be all right, and I hope that he is. But like I said, I don't want to minimize what Mr. Cooper's done, because I think he did a fine job. He had a lot of friends in this area that were police officers that were good friends of his, and the local police and people pretty much tried to leave him alone. But you got to understand, he was in a position where he did come out and threaten a couple of local citizens with weapons, and he has pushed the envelope. And I agree with you, he had the right to stay in his home, but for safety's sake, they tried to lure him to a place where they could arrest him and apprehend him on these assault warrants.
Oh, really?
Minimizing damage.
They're saying that it was over the whole IRS thing.
No, it wasn't. I'll guarantee you it wasn't, because the
Well, don't you
IRS
find it interesting that he's been under siege for 2 years now, and then a month and a half, 2 months after September 11th, he gets gunned down outside his house, and they admit they were trying to lure him?
It was at that time that he threatened two of our local citizens. One of them was a doctor. Stuck a gun in his face and threatened him because the doctor was parked on a hill on some property close to Mr. Cooper's house.
Now, that's what the press reports are saying. That
that's
the
what
press reports are saying that football coaches came up to videotape something for a video, and he told him to get off his property, that it wasn't his property. But again, you know, I read all this other stuff in these news articles, and I know it's lies. You know, they say there's no world government, there's no new world order. It's all, and then how am I supposed to believe the other stuff they've got written here?
Well, I agree with you 100%, and I'm not standing up for them. I'm just telling you that what I don't want to see happen is I don't want to see militia types and people get excited and up in arms about a situation that they're not real familiar with. And we living here all knew what was going on. And Bill Cooper's very good friend down the street runs a newspaper. Glenn Jacobs knows him well, and we all agree that Bill pushed the envelope, and he just lost it.
Do you have Glenn Jacobs' phone number?
Yeah, he's at...
Hold on. Let me put you on hold, and we'll get that number. We'll try to call him right now and get him on.
Well, you might not get him at home. You know, it's late, but I don't know. Go ahead.
Well, do you have his home number?
I'll give it to you, yeah.
Okay, we'll get that from you during the break. Look, the guy's dead. I'm not going to sit here and I think he did a lot of good work. You know, Bill did some things I didn't like, some of his style and things, but I'm not going to sit here. What happened to him was wrong. What the IRS does is wrong, and it's all a bunch of garbage. And I've seen SWAT teams in Lubbock shoot their own officers. They're up in Fort Worth blowing their own officer's head off in a school during a drill, and there's just too much evidence to the contrary is what I'm saying. Do you see where I'm going with this, Deke?
Exactly, and I agree with you 100%. I just want you to know that it didn't come down quite as way it was pictured.
All right, Deke, stay there, and then we're going to get to everybody else. But I want to get that information from you during this break, and see if you want to continue with us.
Because there's a war on for your mind.
All right, we're going to have a local newspaper reporter, Glenn Jacobs, on the show, and I spent about 3 hours reading over some of the archives of old mainstream and alternative news stories and off Cooper's site. And in the past, he was big buddies with Glenn Jacobs, and they had a falling out. And we'll try to find out exactly what's going on and just get it from another angle. But I do desperately want to go ahead and get to your calls. Scott and Brian and Jake and Rick and everybody else that's holding. We got plenty of time, about an hour and 51 minutes spanning out before us. Real quick, let's go back to Deke, lives nearby in Arizona. How are the locals responding to the death of William Cooper at the hands of a SWAT team last night? Deke? I guess we lost him. All right.
Hello.
Yes, sir. How are the locals responding to the death of William Cooper?
Well, nobody likes it, but they all agreed that he had pushed the envelope. He went off his nut when he threatened these local people and with firearms, and went to one doctor. He went to his house and threatened him, and he just had gone off his nut, and we hated to see it. But the other misconception is the two deputies that drew him out to bring him away from the house to minimize the damage because the house was reported to be an arsenal. He opened fire on one of those deputies, and they returned fire, and that's how he got killed. And it was a terrible thing.
Now, wait a minute. They say in their own press release that it was a SWAT team, a tactical officer that was shot in the head.
Well, the way it went down was that there was two fellas that went up there, and they were posing as juveniles or kids to try to draw him out to get him away from the house so they could take him without this type of an incident happening. And that's the way it went down. And you can talk to Glenn Jacobs about it and they were good friends. They had a falling out a few years ago, but they still remained in contact. And we all hated to see it happen, especially in our town. But, you know, it's one of those things. You can't. You know, he had a problem with the IRS, and I agree. I don't like the IRS any more than anybody else.
Well, they're a private organization.
Huh?
They're a private collection agency.
I know this, and I'm not trying to minimize what the things that Mr. Cooper did. I'm just saying that sometimes these things really need to be looked into because you got a police operation here that probably wasn't structured as well as it should have been, but you also have a man that went off his nut and threatened local people with harm. And so somebody had to act. They waited 3 years, and the IRS and the rest of them kind of stood down on the issue, figuring that someday he might come out and they could. They did have a bench warrant with the federal district court. They'd go ahead and serve it at a traffic stopper.
All right. Well, Dink, I appreciate the call. We've got to get to some of the other people to get their perspective, but you're a local. Will you call us back throughout the week when we're talking about this?
I sure will.
How do you listen to the show?
Well, I got you on the shortwave now, and then occasionally buddies of mine, we go up to our local library and put you up on the website and pull stuff off your site.
What frequency are you listening to us on?
Let me see. I think it's I can't read the whole thing. It's a 50 or
Yeah, that's it. All right, I believe you. Take care.
Okay.
Appreciate the call. Okay, let's go ahead and talk to the gentleman that we were just discussing. Glenn, tell us your full name and about yourself and the newspaper you publish.
This is Frank Glenn Jacobs of Eager, Arizona, and I published the Round Valley paper. Now I'm just the editor of it.
The Round Valley paper.
Yeah, Round Valley is Eager in Springerville, Arizona, and it's we have the Round Valley High School here, but we're not on the map as Round Valley. We're on the map as the towns of Eager and Springerville.
So Frank Glenn Jacobs.
Yes, sir.
Now, I was reading an Arizona Republic story. It actually, I think, mentioned your name a few years ago. Were you aware of that?
I was aware of it.
And that you guys were big buddies. How did number one, what do you know? What's your perspective or take on what happened, and who have you, obviously with the newspaper, have you talked to the police, and what are they saying happened other than what's in their press release?
Well, you have to back up about 3 months ago here when Bill was threatening people that would come up on that hill. It's just about half a mile from here. I can see his house from mine. But people that had come up there, he'd come out with a gun and tell them he'd kill them if they didn't get off his mountain. It's not his mountain. He just has 2 city lots up there on the top of the hill.
Well, I want to be supportive of Bill Cooper.
I want to be supportive.
Hold on just a second. Hold on just a second. I understand, Glenn. They haven't even buried him yet, but I'm going to just tell you something. And this whole thing is unacceptable, but I do know when the British media came to interview me, they wanted to interview Bill Cooper, and they said they came on his property, pulled a gun on him. But you can understand where the concern would come from him, knowing the IRS was coming any day.
I know that, but you see, he went down. The local police put up with that, all right. They just kind of overlooked all that. But on 2 occasions last summer, Bill came down and went to people's houses and right in their front door stuck a gun in their face and, "Hey, Doc, if you ever come up my mountain again, I'll kill you." And that's aggravated assault. That's a felony in all 50 states.
Were the people on his property?
No, we're talking about Bill going down on their property.
No, but had they originally come up on his property?
It doesn't matter if it was on his property or not. He only owns 2 lots up there on the top. He would chase anybody off the whole top of that ridge.
Well, see, I'm just trying to...
I'm his friend, and when I would go up there, I would honk the horn, beep, beep, all the way up, so that he wasn't surprised by having me show up there.
So how did you guys have your falling out?
Well, that's a personal matter of a mistake that I made, and I made a terrible misjudgment, and that is not important to this case.
Well, that's big of you to say you made a mistake. I don't even know what it pertains to. So, talking to the police, fast forwarding. I talked to Cooper on the phone, and he was a little bit ornery when I get him set up for an interview, and then would come on the radio and start, going into his profanity. And I saw him change over the years. I think the stress of this whole New World Order got to Bill, and we should all pray for his, pray for God to receive him into heaven. I'm sad that this happened,
but the fact remains exactly like you said. Whatever happened to him, he got out of line and committed these felonies, and finally he did some that they could not overlook because he came down into town to do them, and they got very proper arrest warrants, and because the Eager police and the sheriff's deputies like Bill Cooper, they in favor of Bill Cooper, they have waved the federal police away from here and told them to leave Bill alone. Don't you dare come in here without our...
Well, I do have to say, from the May 6, 2001 article, they're quoted as saying that, but I find it interesting that if this happened a couple of months ago with these people coming up on the hill, sightseeing, some of the locals, that why did they come months later, and why were they sneaking around?
They weren't sneaking around. You have got to understand...
Okay, they were setting a... Hold on. They were setting a trap. They admit that.
You asked me a question, and if you won't let me answer it, I can't talk with you.
I understand, Glenn. Go ahead.
These officers like Bill Cooper. and they knew they had to go capture him, and they knew that the only way they could capture him alive was to get him isolated from his house and then just jump him and handcuff him. That was the least and most minimum damage they could possibly do. Well, surprise, surprise, last night, instead of walking out to them like he usually does, for that very, very short distance, he got in a vehicle and drove out there. And when they tried to jerk him out of the vehicle, he slammed it reverse, stomped on the gas, shoved one officer, shot another officer in the head, and headed back toward his house. Now, when he was trying to get in his house, they knew that if he got through the door, he would kill every one of them. He has broadcast this worldwide time after time that he will not be captured, he will not surrender, and I've been at his house any number of times, and he has showed me his AK-47 that he keeps right inside the door. And it's not a secret, and the officers knew that if he got in there, he would kill them all. He's got a perfect field of fire up on top of that ridge. Nobody would have been able to get down alive. And they knew they had to shoot him before he got in. And they all shot him at once, and he died. And he was my friend, and I'm sorry he's dead.
Do you have any? Well, I understand, Glenn. We're all sorry he's dead. And we're sorry the deputy got shot as well. You're telling me that they shot him. So they obviously shot him in the back, and how many times they shoot him?
I don't know that they shot him in the back or any particular place, and I don't know how many times they shoot him. But when you have a situation like that come up, everybody shoots because everybody knows that this is it. This is a desperate choice. Now,
we read in the Arizona Republic that he shot the deputy twice in the head. Is that accurate?
As near as I have understood it, he shot the deputy twice in the head. The surgery was successful, and the deputy is expected to live. But that's what I heard about noon today. I don't know what has transpired since.
Got to be a pretty good shot to be pulling up in his truck, and they jump out and jump at the car, and then he just shoots one right in the head. What did the police
The guy was climbing in the car with him.
Oh.
I mean, it was, they were swarming him.
So
it was bad breath range. So you got to detect the finger of God in this, that a man could take 2 .45 caliber slugs to the head and still have a chance to live.
Well, it's a good thing it wasn't 357. The 45 deflects quite a bit. It's actually a weak round. Well, 45 APC?
I do not know. That's what I heard tell. Yeah. I never have seen him with a 45. I've only seen him with a 9mm, so I don't know.
9mm junk, too. 357 Magnum. All right. Well, Glenn, I appreciate your honesty. Will you stay with us for one more segment to tell us more?
I'll tell you more. Ask me a question.
All right, and then we'll take some calls. Stay right there. We're talking to Glenn Jacobs, and he's a local editor, former owner of the local newspaper, and quoted here as a friend of William Cooper in articles going back even into 1995 in the Arizona Republic that I dug out and we've posted on Infowars.com. And we got his number from another one of the local listeners. Got listeners everywhere. Glenn, I want to take some calls here, and if you want to ride along with us, that'd be great. One more time, tell us the name of the local paper you operate.
Round Valley Paper.
The Round Valley Paper. What are your editions going to say tomorrow about all this?
Well, we've already got tomorrow's edition in our hand, and I got this story immediately as we were going out the door to have it printed, so we changed the front page to get this in, and it was very, very incomplete. Do you want me to read it to you?
Well, you say it's incomplete, so you have the latest info for us then.
I don't have the latest info about anything, but I do have more info now than when I wrote this thing this morning.
Okay, well, I mean, you're right there in the town of Eager, right?
Yes, I am.
So I'd say you have the latest info compared to me, compared to our listeners. And if I sound ornery here tonight, sir, I appreciate you joining us. I'm just very upset about this.
I'm kind of upset, too. This is a man that he's been to my house any number of times. I've been to his house. I used to go up there, and his little girls would come out and give me a big hug, and it was all that's gone.
He says that his family's been out of the country. Is that true?
As near as I understand, his wife turned herself in and is in federal custody at this time. I have no idea what has happened to the children.
His wife turned herself in. Where was she there on top of the hill?
She was there on top of the hill until, I suppose, a couple of years ago.
Okay, because he's been saying that about a year ago he told his family to leave the country because of, quote, Nazi Gestapo. Where did you hear she turned herself into federal authorities?
I think one of the officers told me that today. I have.
And turned herself in for what? See,
the IRS wants Bill, and so in order to have a handle on him, they put a warrant on her for some kind of tax violation. Now, Bill has been trying to prove for all these years that they don't have a law that says our wages are subject to income tax.
Well, they don't, and I mean, we've had people like Joe Bannister, former Treasury agent, who went public about all this. The whole thing's private, run for profit. That's been proven.
Have you been in contact with Bob Schultz?
Oh yeah, we've had Schultz on and everybody.
Okay, good.
Bill Benson, the former tax.
Anyhow, a couple of 3 years ago, Bill had me publish a full page of, I think, 150 or so points of law that he wanted to discuss with the government. Of course, the government didn't want to discuss anything. They wanted to lock him up. And they put a warrant on her to have a handle on him.
I wonder why she turned herself in.
It may be that she thought she would be safer and her children would be safer in federal custody than at the top of that hill.
But what I'm trying to say here is Bill said they've been gone for a year out of the country. You live in the area. Was his family there any time in the last 6 months?
No, I haven't seen them for a long time.
Well, to me, I think Bill Cooper, even though I disagree with some of the things he said. I mean, he took 5 hours of my radio show and edited them together and aired 30 minutes of it to make me sound like a crazy person, but that's okay. I think, on the balance, he did a lot of good work.
I'm sure that he did a lot of good work.
But at the same time,
I think that it's a terrible waste that he's gone. But
at the same time, I find it very interesting. I mean, imagine having your family gone, being under attack. He changed. I remember interviewing him 5 years ago in the last few years, and I think this system, put him under undue strain. But can you confirm, can you give us the names of these people that live locally who were threatened by him?
The names of which people?
The people you say that were up on near his property and that he threatened.
Well, yeah, Dr. Scott Hamblin, local boy, gone to medical school, come back to practice. I don't know the name of the other one.
Dr. Scott Hamblin?
Yes.
What about this police officer?
Which one?
Deputy Marinez?
I don't know him.
It says serve as law enforcement officer for 4 years there in the county. You didn't know him?
I didn't know him. I don't know all the sheriff's men.
But you do know the local police?
I know a lot of the Eager police officers.
Well, it's been very helpful. Glenn Jacobs there from the Round Valley Press. Will you stay with us and field some calls after this quick break?
Sure.
All right, we really appreciate you joining us. Does the Round Valley Press have a website?
No, we don't. And it's the Round Valley Paper, not the Round Valley Press.
All right. It's all developing fast.
The Round Valley Press was something...
We'll be right back.
This is GCN.
That's right. We are your friends.
The Genesis Communications Radio Network. The Alex Jones Show. Because there's a war on for your mind.
Cooper shot dead at the age of 58 at his home there on a Mesa hilltop in Eager, Arizona. If you want to read the Arizona Republic propaganda pieces or the press release put out by the Apache County Sheriff's Department or the Sierra Times report and other news stories, simply go to your one-stop shop for up-to-the-minute information, multiple times daily, updated, Infowars.com. That's INFOWARS.com. You get all the information you need. I am very thankful to Glenn Jacobs of the Round Valley Paper who has been quoted in national news stories as being a friend of Mr. Cooper's. We're about to go straight to your calls. I appreciate you patiently holding. Later, I'm going to read the police report or press release, propaganda piece, and more. And I am withholding judgment on all of this. I just know this. It feels really bad to watch them burn Waco, blow up Oklahoma City, let the terrorists strike the World Trade Center complex twice. FBI cooked the bomb and trained the drivers in '93. October 28th, New York Times even admits that. It's painful to watch Bush on Cipro the day of the attack. It's painful to watch the mayor of San Francisco admit that he was called by the Justice Department 4 days before September 11th and told not to fly. It's painful to watch SWAT teams shoot their own officers in Lubbock and blow their own officers' head off inside a school in a so-called live fire drill a few months ago there in Fort Worth, Texas. It's scary, and we know it stinks to high heaven. So I want to give Bill Cooper the benefit of the doubt, but we're about telling the truth here and finding out what happened. I'm going to have to research this further and continue to get all the angles. I just know that the things we're being told by Glenn Jacobs mesh with my personal experiences. Like on this show, you'll never hear me talk about another broadcaster, except maybe once in a blue moon if I flip out. Bill was not like this 5 years ago, and were they doing something to him? Was it the stress, his family having to leave? Did the government create this? Obviously, the average man could not handle the amount of stress Mr. Cooper was put under. And being under siege will drive one to let's say, dangerous lengths. I have seen this firsthand in other cases with people that have been surrounded for years. In the one of the cases here in East Texas. Let's go ahead and go back to Glenn Jacobs. Glenn, anything else you want to add? Do you understand why I'm reserving judgment? I don't know what happened here.
Well, if it had been the feds that came down here, I would just take it for granted that they'd come down to murder him and had murdered him. Now, that would be, in my mind, that would be just a cut-and-dried proposition. But these are not officers who did not like him. These are our local sheriff and eager police officers, and they did like him. And they shoot the sheriff, the feds, the sheriff and the chief of police both shooed the feds away. And they said, leave him alone.
Well, again, I just want to read these quotes. Eager police chief Scott Garms said his department has had a number of discussions with the U.S. Marshal Service and the FBI about the best way to take Cooper into custody. I made my opinions known that there's no reason to go in and storm that house and make a martyr out of him. Well, that's happened now, whether they like it or not. Tom McCombs, Chief Deputy Marshal for the District of Arizona, did not return phone calls regarding Cooper. Cooper noted on his website that he sent most of his family out of the country in '99 for security reasons, and that they are now safe from Nazi jack-booted thugs. You know, Cooper didn't know. I mean, it says a tactical team. They were in ninja black uniforms and were trying to jump in his car. I mean, people were just taught 8 years ago, 10 years ago in the military that terrorists wear ski masks. So we don't know what Bill Cooper was thinking. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you know what?
I see what you were saying, but what you have here is, in order to get him out of the house, they did what has got him out of the house any number of times before. When people go up on that hill, he tends to come out there and wag his gun in their face and say, "Get off my mountain or I'll kill you." And the police and the sheriff's department have pretty well put up with that, ignored it, overlooked it. But when he has gone down into town and threatened people at their own houses like that, that gave rise to the warrants for his arrest. And
you're saying that's because of the local doctor?
Well, there's him and somebody else that I don't know the name of that this has happened to. This is not some brand new thing.
Well, the Arizona Republic, which I don't trust, but it meshes with what you're saying, is stating that some football coaches went up there to shoot a video, and that he came out on them. But
well, he's come out up there on any number of people, and
all right,
that has just been glossed over. But this they could not gloss over because he came down into town to do this.
All right. People have been holding for a long time. Are you willing to take some calls with us?
I'll take some calls.
All right. Scott in Illinois, then Brian in New York, Jake, Rich, Chris. You're coming up right now fast. Scott in Illinois. Go ahead, sir.
Alex,
How did he get into town and threaten people with guns and then get back up to his house?
He just walked down to town.
Well,
he's not
excuse me.
up there. He's not under siege.
Excuse me. You told Alex
free to go down. We've seen him at the grocery store.
Are you going to give me the time that you told Alex you need?
I can't hear you.
Well, Alex, I just wanted to say, about 5 months ago, before these so-called people were threatened with guns, Alex, Joe said on his shortwave radio show that 6 or 7 guys come up in their ninja stuff and tried to sneak up on his house. Long before this happened, long before these people were threatened with guns, they came face to face with him and his dogs.
Well, that's the point I've been making, Scott, is that you got the feds swarming around, you got them sneaking around in the bushes, and they leave, and he sees other people sneaking around. I know he said that on his website, and that gives rise to this. So, again...
Paranoid. They make him more paranoid. And how did they get Randy Weaver and his family out of the house? It's the same dirty, filthy thing they did to the Weavers. They create a commotion, they get him out of the house. It's not to get him away from their guns, it's to get him out of the house so he's a better shot.
Well,
I think that your last
right. They didn't get him out to murder him, because if they just wanted to murder him...
I think you're very much informed whether you call yourself a friend of his or not, sir.
They perfectly had an opportunity to shoot him through the windshield. They did not. They made every attempt to just simply take him.
How is it that you haven't brought up the fact that they sent a team on his property about 5 or 6 months ago?
I don't know about a team 5 or 6 months ago.
Well, he came on his own show and made a joke out of him and said that they came face to face with him and his dog, and they backed off.
Well, anybody with any brains will back off of his dog Crusher, but they killed his dog Crusher last night, too.
Oh, really?
Well, can I say one thing here? The military took an oath like the police department took an oath. And the oath is, I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith, allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without mental reservation and purpose of evasion, and I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter. And the last 4 words are the most important, so help me God. I have no sympathy for the police officer that was shot, because he's ignorant of his own choosing, or he knows what's going on. And I'll tell you what, the president wants 100,000 more police officers. If they're going to do this to patriots, they're going to need about 5 million more police officers.
All right, Scott, I hear the frustration in your voice, and I think we're all sad that Bill Cooper's dead, and we need to get to the bottom of what happened here, and we're getting on the locals for you. Whenever a caller called them with this number, we called information and got the number to the local paper, the Round Valley paper, and we are talking to the man quoted 5 years ago in the paper as Cooper's friend, and one of the locals right now. That is confirmed. So that's all we're doing, is trying to talk to anybody locally. In fact, anybody who's there locally, has a different side of the story or has any other information for us, 1-800-259-9231. And I appreciate Glenn Jacobs, the editor and former owner of the Round Valley paper, for coming on tonight. But I understand what you're saying, Scott. I'm a talk show host. I think I feel. I'm hanging out here. I'm sneaking into Bohemian Grove and catching them doing this stuff. I know how dangerous they are. I'm on their list. But the point here is, Glenn Jacobs, can't you see that this is just a fulfilling prophecy? We see this over and over again. We see the reports of the SWAT teams killing women and people's dogs and shooting little kids and throwing flashbang grenades into cribs.
Well, they didn't throw a flashbang grenade into a crib, and they didn't go up there and murder Bill Cooper. And the fact remains that if he had gotten 2 more steps and got into the house where his rifle was, not one of them would have survived to get off the hill. He has an excellent field of fire from there. He's an expert shot.
Well, he said it over and over again that he was probably going to die on his doorstep, and I'm sad that came true.
Well, it exactly came true. But if I'm his friend, but if I had been there under those circumstances...
When's the last time you talked to Bill Cooper?
Well, it seemed like a month or 2 ago. I had some piece of information I thought would be of interest, and I called him up, told him, and that was it. He wasn't interested in having a conversation with me, but that's when I talked to him.
Why? And I think all the listeners of Bill's show know that his attitude changed in the last 5 years. Why do you think he got so depressed?
I don't know. I'm not able to diagnose mental illnesses.
Oh, you're saying he's well. Again, I don't know. I just know that
I am of the opinion that he became insane.
All right. Well, I don't know that, and
well, I don't know that.
Well, he's dead. So, Glenn, let's not say things like that. You know, his body's just now getting cold. Let's go ahead and talk to Brian in New York. You're on the air with Glenn Jacobs. Round Valley. Go ahead.
Right. Mr. Jones and Mr. Jacobs. I have 7 points for Mr. Cooper's death, but let's try to keep this not emotional but logical. We have to pray for Jesus Christ.
Please speak louder. I'm halfway deaf.
So pray for his family.
Yes.
3, the purge is starting against patriot people. If you are a patriot leader, don't be alone by yourself, because now the stylistic purge is starting. As department, the government has many ways to force policemen to do things, because everybody pays income tax, and the feds might have told these cops, either you get him or you guys are going to jail for income tax evasion.
Yeah, we know
so
they stood up to him.
The federal government has ways of pushing people's buttons. They can do it. Because I've been in the Army and I've been in law enforcement.
Jones, but it does not.
They can press your button, sir. And I'm not saying we don't know what happened, so we're not accusing you of anything. But I'm telling you, the truth is something in between, and they can press your button.
Okay, hold on just a second. I'll let you finish up. Brian, Glenn Jacobs, editor at the Round Valley paper. You're not talking to me. You're talking to a caller. What I want you to understand here, folks, is that I think Brian's making a great point. You know, suddenly he makes these predictions, and these people start popping up there, different teams running around in the bushes, escalating this to where he then gets paranoid, and you know, people in plain clothes, feds are up there, then he goes up against normal people in plain clothes, and it's a local escalation to get the locals to do their dirty work. What's your take on that, Glenn Jacobs?
My take on that, I'm sure that they do it. I'm sure that they are very pleased that Bill Cooper is dead.
Yeah, manipulators.
And they send out agents provocateurs in order to make sure that things like this happen.
Okay, then.
However, they did not make Bill go downtown and threaten Dr. Scott Hamblin with a pistol at his own house. And Scott Hamblin did not do anything out of the ordinary. He just walked around on the hilltop there. Bill Cooper has a lot, or maybe 2 lots up there where his house is, visible from my house. I can just step outside and see his house. And but he doesn't own the whole top of the hill.
Are the feds or the locals? We know the state police are swarming throughout the home. What are they doing right now?
I have no idea.
Are they up there? Can you see their cars?
I'm in the house, and I haven't been looking, and I understand that they're all over the place up there earlier today. Tim Moe said that they wouldn't let him up there because it's all they're doing their crime scene thing.
Who's Tim Moe?
He's another friend of Bill Cooper.
All right, Brian, anything else?
He's the one who told it to me first thing this morning.
Understand one thing. These people have psychological programs. They have the human mind down to a science. They can get you to do a certain thing at a certain time with enough pressure.
I don't doubt that.
Now, see, so the thing is that they have a man up there, you isolate you away from your wife and your children, no matter what the circumstances. And they know how to play people's minds. No matter how strong somebody thinks they are, they can break you. They can break anybody. I hate to say this, but it's the truth. And this poor man, they finally broke him. They made him make the first move. In other words, he went down, I don't know what happened. Went down there and he physical violence with his doctor. This is what they were waiting for. In other words, he finally blinked. Now we get him. But the feds, in order to make sure that their hands don't get dirty, tell the police, now you get him, and you better get them, or you guys are going to offer income tax evasion. And they have
I know that's a true tactic that they use because I see them down here manipulating the local police and sheriff's people on drug buy. And they have police and sheriff's officers here doing things that their departments would fire them for doing.
Of course.
Because after all, they're the feds, and this is the war on drugs.
And then they get
emotion. And I just want to make one plea. Everybody, please, let's keep it not emotional. Because they're waiting for us now to do something stupid. Then they can clamp down on all of us.
Yeah, they desperately want to blame patriots for the federal anthrax operation. Now proven, the San Francisco Chronicle headline, Al-Qaeda terrorist worked with the FBI.
And one more thing. The person who fires the first shot is going to lose. If we fire the first shot in this direction, we're all going to prison camp. When the day comes, they take. Let me just finish it. When the day comes to take, they will fire the first shot. Listening, calm down, don't, because they want you to do something stupid. Now, let's all keep this calm.
All right, I hear you.
Jones is telling us words of wisdom that we better listen to.
All right, Brian, appreciate the call. Let's talk to Jake in Florida real quick. You're on the air.
Hi, did somebody bury Bill's dog? Hello?
Did anyone bury Bill Cooper's dog?
I don't have any idea. I just heard that they had killed the dog.
Well, when did they kill it?
Presumably last night.
Was it before or after they got him?
I suppose it was afterwards, because they were trying to be very quiet about who they were and what they were doing, so that he would come out there and threaten them and run them off the hill.
Well, I think they used a silencer on Stryker, Old Yella, and Randy's dog before they got his son.
I thought that they had deliberately made a big show of killing Randy's dog in order to stir the fight up.
Mm-hmm. Well, you don't know when is Bill's funeral?
I have no idea.
I think we ought to know when and where, and we ought to find out if I think Bill, he'd probably want someone to bury his dog. Would you agree with that?
Well, I'm sure that that's the case.
Yeah, I think he'd want people to be there to bury him, but his wife, you're telling us, Glenn Jacobs, the editor of the Round Valley paper, has turned herself in. So, does he have any next of kin to go receive the body? Glenn?
Sure.
Does he have any next of kin to receive the body?
Well, there's his friend Doyle that I don't think is related to him. But
all right, stay right there, Glenn Jacobs. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We've got a whole other hour coming up, plenty of time to take your calls. William Cooper shot dead in the early morning hours outside of his home. We know that much is true. A deputy was shot twice in the head, and they say is still alive. A real tragedy. I just called Bill Cooper's home number, and it was his answering machine. The local black-suited gentleman did not answer the phone, and so we'll continue to try to watch that. Now, this Doyle person that was living with Bill, what is his last name, Glenn Jacobs, Round Valley paper editor? Oh, you don't know?
I don't know. I've only known him as Doyle.
And how long has Doyle been around there?
Years.
Was Doyle there the night of the attack?
No.
So do you know if he's up there on the hill? Or?
They tell me he is, but I don't know that.
But they're not answering the phone?
No, you just called and they don't answer the phone.
But I'm asking you. I mean, I've only tried once. Have you tried?
No, I haven't. No reason to call there.
Well, I think that Jake or Jack, whoever's calling from Florida, is it Jake or Jack? We got him there? They're in Florida.
Is he?
Jake, I think you... Hold on. I think you raised... Hold on. I think you raised a good point. You know, we know they shot Mr. Weaver, who's been on this show many times. We know they shot his dog as a preemptive strike. We don't really know what transpired up on that hill. We're just supposed to believe the local police. But you're...
I think our local police are quite believable.
Okay, go ahead.
Is he going to be buried locally there for the funeral arrangements? Is all that done locally, or does he have some other area that he might have a burial lot? Or
I don't have.
Well, we're getting unconfirmed reports, and again, I'm going to have to track these down during another break. I'm having to do a couple jobs here at once. We're getting told that he does have next of kin in the country, and that they are going to take receipt of the state and his body. And I would hope that someone buries the dog. Do you think the local police will allow Doyle to bury his dog?
Well, if they let me, I'll go take his dog down and bury him.
Well, that's really nice of you, Glenn. It's the least we can do for Bill Cooper.
Yeah, Alex?
Yes.
I think that, you could let the listeners know when and where for the funeral arrangements. And, I'd like to know who the preacher is, who's going to say some words. And, there's a lot of things,
Absolutely. I appreciate the call.
Okay.
Let's take a call from Rick in Baltimore, and we'll hold him over to the next hour. Rick in Baltimore, you're on the air, sir. Welcome.
Alex, I'd like to, for him to interview that doctor. Why did he go up that mountain when he knew Bill Cooper lived there? Did he work for the government in any capacity before? Okay, and Mr. Cooper is not that nuts to go down. He probably went down and threatened the guy and said, if you come back on my land, okay, I might shoot you. But Mr. Cooper is not enough to pull out a gun at somebody in town.
That's a good point.
When they were up on his property.
I tell you what, Rick, stay right there. That's a good point. We don't know what really happened, and we need to check it out for ourselves. Stay there, Rick, and then Chris and Ron. Glenn Jacobs, I really appreciate you joining us. Do you mind riding along with us for a couple more segments?
Well, I can go with you for a while.
All right. The third hour is only seconds away. Infowars.com, Infowars.net.
And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Already in the third and final hour of my nighttime broadcast. It is Tuesday, the 6th of November, 2001. And in the early morning hours of November 6th, local police, we don't know who else is accompanying them, we don't know all the facts, ladies and gentlemen, shot and killed William Cooper there at his home as he was trying to escape them. They claim that he shot one of the officers, one of the tactical team black-suited officers. Maybe they were wearing camo. They say in their press release here, and we're talking to Glenn Jacobs, Round Valley Paper reported in news articles that he was friends with Bill. They report a tactical officer was the one, this Deputy Marinez. Do you know what type of tactical gear the local sheriff's department wears? Is it a black ski mask uniform or a camo ski mask uniform? Glenn Jacobs, do you know?